Right now, sitting on grocery store shelves, there's a $3 liquid that can permanently stop engine wear. Not slow it down, not reduce it, stop it. The kind of wear that costs you a $4,000 engine rebuild or a $900 dealership oil service every 6 months. And this liquid stops that wear. When you add just 1 tablespoon of this liquid to your engine oil, the metal surfaces inside your engine stop rubbing against each other at the molecular level. Friction decreases, heat drops, engine life doubles, even triples. Racing pilots in the 1920s knew about this. Fighter pilots in World War II knew about this. Formula One engineers used it too, until it was quietly banned. For the last 80 years, the $50 billion synthetic motor oil industry has worked to make sure you never connect these dots. They didn't stop using it because it failed. They stopped talking about it because it worked too well. A $3 solution that extends engine life does not fit a business model built on repeat oil changes and replacement parts. This liquid is castor oil, the oil that helped power the first airplane and helped win World War II, and was slowly forgotten when corporations realized what it meant for profits. If these stories matter to you, subscribing helps keep this knowledge alive. Here we open the vaults. Industries tried to keep locked. Let's go back to where everything began. The year is 1903. In Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, 2 bicycle mechanics from Dayton, Ohio, are struggling with a problem no engineer had solved before. Orville and Wilbur Wright need an engine light enough to fly, yet strong enough to lift their wooden aircraft into the sky. Every petroleum lubricant they test fails. Under extreme heat and high RPM, petroleum oil breaks down. Metal surfaces seize, bearings freeze, the engine destroys itself within minutes. Then their machinist, Charlie Taylor, suggests something unusual. He read that European watchmakers used castor oil to lubricate delicate, high-speed mechanisms where traditional oils failed. Taylor mixes castor oil into the engine lubrication system. Something remarkable happens. The same plant your grandmother may recognize as a traditional remedy, the same plant ancient Egyptians used over 6,000 years ago. Archaeologists discovered sealed jars filled with thick golden oil inside burial sites along the Nile, the Ibers. Papyrus describes this oil being used for medicine and lubrication, chariot axles, bronze tools, mechanical components. Ancient engineers understood something modern industry rarely mentions. Unlike animal fats, this oil did not burn away under heat. It formed a protective layer that clung to metal surfaces. By the time of the Roman Empire, castor oil was documented in military engineering manuals, used in catapults, siege machines, transport wagons crossing the Alps. Roman engineers recorded bronze parts lasting 3 times longer when lubricated with this oil. 3 times longer from a naturally growing seed. Mind blown. Fast forward to 1917. World War I pushes technology beyond its limits. Aircraft engines spin at extreme speeds. Temperatures destroy petroleum lubricants. Engines fail mid-flight. The British Royal Air Force tests 34 lubricants at Farnborough Laboratories. The results revealed something that the engineers initially found hard to believe. Castor oil outperformed all petroleum-based alternatives. While petroleum oils failed above 180 degrees C, castor oil maintained protective viscosity above 250 degrees C. It showed no degradation in film strength, even under continuous maximum load. Every Sopwith Camel, every SE-5, every DH-14 flying above the Western Front ran on castor oil. Pilots who survived aerial combat did so in engines lubricated by a plant-derived component. Then the story takes a turn the petroleum industry would prefer you never examine too closely. For months, I've been collecting survival techniques, DIY methods, and suppressed knowledge buried by industries for decades. DIY methods and suppressed knowledge buried by industries for decades. All of it stored inside the banned archive vault. A solar water heater made from scrap parts for under $20. A soil battery producing electricity from 2 metals and wet earth. An atmospheric generator producing water from sunlight and salt. Multiple survival guides in one archive. No unnecessary content. Every page is designed for immediate action. The link is in the description. But stay here, because the scientific facts behind why castor oil works are quite disturbing for the synthetic lubricants industry. Every engine depends on something called an oil film, a microscopic liquid layer that prevents metal surfaces from touching. Under pressure, the thickness of this film determines whether your engine lasts 50,000 miles or 500,000 miles. Petroleum-based motor oils are mineral hydrocarbons. Their molecular structure is relatively simple, and they lose viscosity as the temperature increases. At 100 degrees, standard 5W30 oil has lost approximately 40% of its room temperature viscosity. At 150 decks, common near combustion chambers and turbocharger bearings, the oil film becomes critically thin. Metal surfaces begin touching. Microscopic welding occurs. Wear accumulates invisibly, measured in microns. Castor oil behaves differently due to its molecular structure. Its primary component, ricinoleic acid, contains a hydroxyl group. This allows molecules to bond directly to metal surfaces. The molecules do not simply float between metal surfaces. They attach to them. They create a chemically bonded protective layer that resists pressure and does not thin under heat like petroleum films. A 2019 study published in Tribology International compared castor oil to synthetic PAO lubricants under identical pressure and temperature conditions. Castor oil demonstrated 35% higher film strength at 200 degrees Celsius and 40% lower wear over 500 hours of testing, 40% less wear, from a $3 per pressed seed oil. Researchers were not surprised. The data has existed in lubrication science literature since the 1950s. What surprised them was the absence of commercial products built around it in the consumer automotive market. And this is where the question becomes uncomfortable. The global motor oil market generates around $52 billion annually. The automotive maintenance aftermarket adds another $280 billion in the United States alone. The entire economic structure of this industry depends on one assumption. Motor oil breaks down and must be replaced regularly. Every 3,000 miles. Every 5,000 miles, every 7,500 miles, depending on who is selling it. Engineers at SAE have documented since the 1970s that modern engines using high-quality lubricants can safely operate 2 to 3 times longer than owner manuals recommend. But the interval printed in your manual is determined by manufacturers and petroleum companies, whose revenue depends on frequent oil purchases. Castor oil presents a structural problem for this model. It resists oxidation. It forms minimal sludge under normal conditions. Its film strength improves with heat, where petroleum films fail. An engine, using a castor oil blend, requires fewer oil changes to maintain the same protective film thickness. Even a 30% reduction in oil change frequency represents tens of billions of dollars in lost industry revenue. A technology that significantly extends engine life also reduces demand for replacement parts. If your engine lasts 400,000 miles instead of 150,000, you purchase fewer rebuild kits, fewer gaskets, fewer bearings. The calculation is simple. A $3 component outperforming $50 synthetic oil is not an opportunity for the industry. It is a threat. And so, during the mid-1950s, as petroleum companies consolidated control of lubricant markets, castor oil quietly disappeared from consumer visibility. Not from engineering literature, not from racing applications where performance matters, from consumer shelves, manuals, and advertisements. In 1992, when Formula One finally banned castor-based lubricants, it was not because they failed. It was because teams using them achieved measurable advantages in friction reduction and engine longevity considered unfair. They banned a plant-derived component because it worked too well. Think about that. Too effective for competition. Then sold you less effective products for 50 times the price. Suppression is not dramatic. It is quiet, systematic, invisible unless you know where to look. Walk into any auto parts store today and you will find 0 bottles of pure castor oil in the lubricant aisle. You will find branded petroleum products labeled high mileage formula, extended performance, and advanced protection technology. Examine safety data sheets and you will see petroleum distillates, synthetic esters, zinc dialkyl dithiophosphate, and molybdenum disulfide. You will not see ricinoleic acid listed by name, because once listed by name, the comparison becomes unavoidable. In 1978, labeling changes allowed chemical components to be listed under proprietary trade terminology rather than standard IUPAC names. Castor oil derivatives became advanced boundary lubrication compounds. Ricinoleic acid derivatives became proprietary film strength modifiers. Same molecule, new vocabulary, higher price. Here's what to do, and it is almost insultingly simple. Purchase food-grade or USP-grade castor oil from a grocery store, pharmacy, or online supplier. A 16-ounce bottle typically costs $3 to $6. For a standard 4-quart oil fill, add between 110 and 170 milliliters of castor oil at your next oil change. This equals roughly 10% of total oil volume. Shake the bottle before measuring. Castor oil is denser than petroleum oil and may settle during storage. For older high-mileage engines, use slightly higher concentrations during the first 2 oil changes to allow adsorption layers to form on worn metal surfaces. Within 500 miles, many users report reduced valve train noise. The ticking sound common in worn engines is metal contact through a thinning oil film. Castor oil helps rebuild that boundary layer. Air-cooled motorcycle engines, which run hotter than water-cooled automotive engines, may benefit from up to a 15% blend. Classic motorcycle restorers have documented these effects for decades. Small engines, such as lawnmowers and generators, benefit from castor oil application before long storage periods. The adsorption chemistry allows protective film to remain bonded to metal surfaces even after weeks of inactivity, reducing dry start wear. A rural Vermont small engine technician documented castor oil use in commercial mowing equipment beginning in 2018. After 4 years and over 3,000 hours of operation, treated engines showed 60% less valve wear and 0 bearing failures. His findings remain publicly available. Industry cannot silence every mechanic with a notebook. Limitations must also be acknowledged. Castor oil is hygroscopic and can absorb moisture more easily than petroleum oil. Understanding these nuances helps us appreciate why this classic lubricant remains a hidden powerhouse in the world of engineering. Engines that rarely reach full operating temperature may accumulate moisture contamination faster. Pure castor oil also has a lower flash point than fully synthetic oils. This is why blending rather than full replacement is recommended for road vehicles. Some engines manufactured before 1975 use seal materials incompatible with castor oil. Test small quantities before full use in vintage engines. This knowledge was not lost. It was withdrawn. It survived on racetracks, in mechanic notebooks, in farm equipment passed from generation to generation. The Wright Brothers flew with it in 1903. The RAF flew with it in 1917. Spitfires defending Britain carried it in 1940. Then quietly, predictably, it was replaced, not by something better, by something more profitable. The $52 billion motor oil industry depends on one thing. You're forgetting. You're returning to the checkout counter every 5,000 miles. Your belief that effective lubrication requires complex chemistry developed in expensive laboratories. It does not. One molecule produced naturally by a tropical seed has been doing the job for 6,000 years. Your engine is wearing right now. Metal sliding across a thin petroleum film that will need replacement in 4,000 miles. For $3, you can add a compound that bonds directly to metal surfaces and reduces wear by up to 40%. The choice is not complicated. It never was. The complicated part was getting through the $52 billion wall built to keep this information from you. It cost them billions to build that wall. Watching this video costs nothing. Share it with someone about to spend $900 on service that could be delayed for years with a $3 bottle. Subscribe so the algorithm understands that knowledge matters more than synthetic oil advertisements. The next vault opens soon. Inside is something already in your walls capable of producing free heat. And the insulation industry has been misleading people about it for 40 years.